are being isolated by the media. We are being shadow banned, and blocked by social media. The deep state runs deep. And it is to the point that our people no longer have the right to listen to what the issues are and then make their mind up who they want to represent them. And that is not American by any stretch of imagination. Now, I come here and I'm getting ready to give you my presentation. And you may all decide that you don't want to vote for me. You want to vote for McConnell again. That is absolutely your right as a citizen of this state and a citizen of this country. But they do not have the right to block you from hearing what the other side has to say. They do not have that right. And that's what's going on. And it's horrible. Now, I was born in Wesley County, a little town called Hyden, in between Manchester and Hazard. I graduated from Wesley County High School, and then I went to Eastern Kentucky University on National Defense Student Loan. I am 69 years old, so I was born in 1950. And when I went to school, they had a thing called National Defense Student Loan. You could borrow money, you could go to school, and then you could pay it back, and I paid it back every time. I graduated from school. I had a BBA degree in accounting. I went to work for the United States Treasury Department. During the time, it was about 8 years, I worked for the United States Treasury Department. During that time, I was detailed to the United States Secret Service, where I was on the protection detail of Vice President Walter Mondale, on Teddy Kennedy when he ran for president in 1980, and I was on the protection detail of John Anderson for a while. He was the independent candidate in 1980. Upon having my father having some medical issues that requested that I come home. I was at that time stationed in Kansas City, Missouri. I came home. My father died 6 weeks after I got home of a massive heart attack. And at that time, I went in business for myself, and I did what every one of you all do. I basically spent my life trying to make a living and trying to raise a family. And I didn't pay too much attention to politics because, you know, I was never going to run for anything. I was a pretty shy kid. And if you'd have told me 10 years ago that I was going to be standing in front of a group of people trying to run for a public office, I would have said you were the craziest person I've ever thought. But when Barack Obama was elected president, I said, we're in trouble. We are real trouble. So I started saying that, and I've been very successful in business, and I started saying, well, I'm going to support them financially. So I started supporting candidates. Rand Paul, I was his first max donor. I supported Andy Barr. I've been voting Republican all my life since I first voted in 1968 for Richard Nixon. And I voted every single time since then in the primary and the general election. And I was a faithful Republican, going every single time and voting. And when Barack Obama was elected, then I knew we were in trouble, so I started trying to support candidates and trying to protect the Constitution and protect our country. But I noticed that every time that I was supporting particular people, they were going into office, and then they were just joining in with the rest of the crew that was already there, and we really wasn't getting any changes. And finally I said, well, we're going to have to do something. If we're going to have changes, we're going to have to run ourselves. So I was coming from church one day, and this is in 2014, and some people came to me and they said, Wesley, would you run for state representative? And I said, oh my God, I never thought about running for state representative. I never thought about running for anything. I don't even know what to do. And they go, well, we can't find anybody to run for District 81. A lady by the name of Rita Smart held the office, and at that time, it had been held for 48 years by the Democrats. This was in Richmond. And I said, well, okay. I said, I'll give it a try. So I went and filed $200 filing fee. And what happened? Republican Party of Kentucky didn't give me any help at all. I didn't know what I was doing and have any idea what I was doing. So I lost. But I lost and I got 42% of the vote in a 3-2 district for 18,000 registered Democrats, 12,000 registered Republicans. So I looked at my wife after I lost and I said, here I am, a nobody. Nobody knew me from Adam. And I said that no one helped me, couldn't raise no money, and I get 42% of the vote. That tells me we can win this race. So I decided, okay, I'm going to run next time. But now you got to understand something about me. I am a true constitutional conservative. When I give an oath to the Constitution, I mean my oath. I am not going to deviate from it. So a lot of politicians that are in office, including a lot of Republicans, do not like that. They want you to go up and jump in bed with them and do what they tell you to do. So the Republican Party ran a person against me in the primary in 2016, and I beat that person. Then in November of 2016, I defeated Rita Smart. She had been in office, I think, for 8 years at that point. And like I said, the Democrats have held that office for 50 years. So I won that race. I went to the House of Representatives. And I thought, like all of you all probably think, that, well, you get elected, you go up there, and you're going to represent your constituents, and you're going to do what's best for the people. And you get in a room and they go, nope, we're 100 people here, or at that time it was 63 Republicans in the caucus, and we're going to take care of each other. And we're going to vote according to the way leadership wants us to vote. And I go, not me. I'm not going to do that. I'm here to vote for what's right, whether it's Democrat or Republican. If they present something that is truly good for the state, then I'm okay with it. I'll give you an example. They wanted me to vote to repeal the workman's comp so that a person who is totally disabled, that he would be cut off from funding after 15 years. I said, I can't do that. I said, there's no way I can do that. I said, because if a person is totally disabled, well, they're supposed to live on after 15 years. So that's one of the issues. But the big issue that happened more than anything else was they came to me and said, we're not going to call Speaker Hoover out for his sexual harassment. And I said, not me. Again, I gave an oath to the Constitution, and that's what I'm going to do. And I started tweeting on the Speaker, and I predicted that he would be resigned by 6 o'clock on Sunday evening. And by 6 o'clock on Sunday evening, he resigned. Now, by me doing that, I was targeted. And the Republican Party, well, Jeff Hoover selected a friend of his wife who went to Eastern Kentucky University with her, and the Republican Party, and Mitch McConnell, and Jeff Hoover, and Jonathan Shell, totally 100% funded this person to beat me in my primary in March of 2018. So, I believe that we should represent our people and not represent just a few. And normally what happens is most people who go up there, they want to represent you. But when you beat your head against the wall and you find that you're not going to get in, I didn't pass one bill. I submitted a lot of bills, a lot of good bills. Constitutional carry, I didn't get it through. I submitted some, animal cruelty, about 102 bills. I submitted 100, I either sponsored or co-sponsored 102 bills the 2 years that I was in the state legislature. And I didn't get any of them, and I only got one committee, and didn't get any other committees. So, I did everything I could, or I thought that we're supposed to do constitutionally, and that is my background, and that is how I got to where I'm at today. Now, let me tell you about what I believe in. I believe in faith, in family, and country. And I believe that you should be free to worship Jesus Christ without persecution. I believe that you should be free to protect the life of the unborn and express your belief that abortion is morally wrong. I believe you should be free to educate your children without government indoctrination. I think you should be free to protect your family from all threats without fear of being imprisoned, possessing a firearm. I believe you should be free to enjoy the fruits of your labor without being taxed to death. And you all know we are taxed to death. Most people who get a W-2 see about 40 to 47% of their check gone before they ever even get home. And what are they trying to do? All they're trying to do is raise a family. Most of them's got 2 car payments, got a house payment. They're trying to put clothes and food in the mouths of their children and clothes on their back, and they're trying to save a little bit for college. But our government is out of control. Our government, they are spending on things that they do not need to be spending on. And they think that they have this unlimited amount of money that they could just continually take more and more and more and more. And ladies and gentlemen, they can't do that because they are suffocating the working class to death. And it is absolutely a fact. I think you should be free to obtain affordable health care. The government needs to get out of the way and put free market principles into purchasing health care. I had very good health care up until Obamacare. I paid $1,000 a month and it paid everything. I had no problem whatsoever. And again, I'm 69 years old. And now, if I buy, well, I got Medicare now, but just like my wife and my youngest daughter, they want $1,000 a month, and then you have to pay the first $6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000 out of your pocket before you ever get anything. That's not right, though. That's not right, and that is all the government's fault, and there's no doubt about it that it is. You should be free to choose your representatives without them being handpicked by party elites. Free to express your opinion without fear of reprisal or censorship. Free to be treated fairly and prosper in peace and safety. And you should be free to have a news media that does not promote untruths through propaganda. All those things that I'm saying to you has been eroded from our country. And they have absolute control over us. Now, in order for you to take me seriously as a candidate for the United States Senate, there's a couple things I have to prove to you. Number one, I have to prove to you that Mitch McConnell being your Senate Majority Leader is not to your advantage. And the second thing I have to prove to you that Mitch McConnell being the Senate Majority Leader is not promoting all these conservative judges that he says he's doing, and if he is doing some of it, he's doing it for political purposes. I truthfully believe that Mitch McConnell is only a conservative when it's election year. That's the only time he's a conservative. It's the only time he starts doing things that the people really want him to do. So let's start with that Mitch McConnell is not a conservative. That Conservative Review gives Rand Paul a 92% grade on conservatism, but they only give Mitch McConnell a 36%. Mitch McConnell is very unpopular here in Kentucky, and he has an approval rating of 33%, 50% among Republicans. The Senate Majority Leader, I'm going to tell you some things that he does to you. In 2013, he and Harry Reid slipped into the National Defense Authorization Act, the 2012 National Defense Authorization Act. They slipped in what they call the Smith-Mont Modernization Act. Anybody ever heard of Smith-Mont? No. Okay. 1948, Congress passed a law called the Smith-Mont Act. What that did is that prohibited the United States government from using propaganda in the news media. In 2012, Harry Reid and Mitch McConnell did the Modernization Act Smith-Montgomery Modernization Act, that actually allowed propaganda in the news media. U.S. repeals propaganda ban, spreads government-made news to Americans. Where do you think that fake news came from? Up until that time, they were not allowed to tell you lies in the news media in America until they repealed this act. That is not to your advantage. Your Senate majority leader did that. And that is absolutely not to your advantage. In 2017, let me go back. President Trump was elected president November the 8th, 2016. In December of 2016, Mitch McConnell slipped into the 2017 National Defense Authorization Act. Now, y'all research this. I don't want you to believe me, I want you to research it. They slipped into the National Defense Authorization Act, House Bill 5181. That was a bill that was co-sponsored by Ted Lieu, the most liberal Democrat congressman from California. It's called Countering Foreign Disinformation and Propaganda Act. What it did is it created a $160 million slush fund to be used by the Broadcasting Board of Governors to censor conservative content in social media, which is Facebook, which is Twitter, which is YouTube. That is the reason why you're getting all of the blocks when conservatives are trying to communicate out into the social media platforms, because they are being blocked. And in that act, up until that point, the Broadcasting Board of Governors was made up of 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats, and the Secretary of State was the 9th member of that board. Mitch McConnell changed it to one person that was picked by the President of the United States as being the czar over the Broadcasting Board of Governors. One person. And I'll get back to that in a moment. So let's talk about the conservative judges. Now, Mitch McConnell says that he needs to be there, and he counts every time that somebody says something, he counts his nominating or confirming all these judges that the president has presented. Does anybody wonder why in the first 2 years of President Trump's term, there wasn't hardly any of them confirmed? Almost none of them, not into the election year. But the thing that really tells the story about Mitch McConnell and the conservative judges is what happened in August. And it's just not August, it's just the example. In August of this year, the Senate recessed, left and went for a month-long vacation. And what does Mitch McConnell do? Mitch McConnell leaves a person in the United States Senate to gavel in every day and gavel out every evening. And you know why he does that? To prevent President Trump from doing recess appointments on every one of the judges that Mitch McConnell's trying to tout like he's getting confirmed right now. Every one of the ambassadors, with those people sitting on Capitol Hill right now lying their butts off about the president. Those people would have been gone. But the biggest thing, remember I just told you about that 2017 bill that Ted Lieu slipped in there? They slipped in about social media and the czar, where they changed the board. Guess who's still there? Barack Obama's appointee after 3 years. Mitch McConnell still has not confirmed President Trump's nominee to be head of the Broadcasting Board of Governors. So what does that tell you, ladies and gentlemen? It tells you he's not concerned with us. He's concerned with his power. He's concerned about keeping his job and trying to convince you that he's doing things that you want him to do. Let's look at what he did in 2013. Or excuse me, 2014. In 2014, a rich person could donate $32,400 to a political party or a committee of a political party. Not an individual candidate, either a party or a committee, $32,400. Mitch McConnell slipped into the spending bill in September 2014. And he changed that from $32,400 to $324,000. So the rich people can donate all this money to the Republican Senatorial Reelection Fund that is used only for the incumbents. You can't use it for people who are challenging the incumbents. You can use it for those individuals. So basically what that does is that disenfranchises you from having to select who it is you want to be your representative. And it creates a money, this is what you call dark money. And it creates this money, this massive amounts of money to defeat. And let me show you this. This is an article that came out, and it says, Senate GOP declares war on conservative troublemakers. The party's campaign arm vows to blackball any firm that works for a primary challenger against one of their incumbents. When I went to Washington, D.C. to get some people to help me raise money for this Senate campaign, they go, Wesley, we're sorry, we can't help you. We would love to. We would love to help you. But we can't, because if we do, we get shut off by all these other people. Do y'all think that's right? Do you think that we are to have a tyrant in the United States Senate who is hand-picking all these candidates who are, their loyalty is to him and not to the people? I mean, look what he did to Chris McDaniel in Mississippi and Judge Roy Moore in Alabama. Pathetic. Pathetic. Mitch McConnell said Judge Moore would be a disruptor if he was elected to the United States Senate. Judge Roy Moore was the Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court, refused to remove the Ten Commandments from the state capitol, and by refusing to do that was removed as Chief Justice, turned around and ran for it and went in. So, people who follow the Constitution are not welcome in Washington, D.C., and all of them is not welcome in Frankfurt either. So, lately, Governor of Georgia, the president wanted, he wanted the governor of Georgia to select Doug Collins as a appointee senator, because we had one of the Georgia senators retire. But he chose instead Kelly Loeffler, who is a never-Trumper, and Mitch McConnell immediately came out and gave full support to her and said she would be treated as an incumbent and would have access to all that money. So it doesn't sound to me like that he's very much, would rather have a never-Trumper in the United States Senate seat than he would having Doug Collins, who is a pro-President Trump. He also, President Trump, nominated John Ratcliffe, the congressman from
Texas.
Texas, that's right. Nominated him to be his director of national intelligence. And then he had to withdraw. And you know why he had to withdraw? Because Mitch McConnell and Richard Byrd, who were Richard Byrd's head of the Senate Intelligence Committee, refused to make John Ratcliffe head of director of national intelligence. So then they had to select someone else. So I think what I'm pointing out here is that by no stretch of the imagination can our Senate Majority Leader have the best interest of the people of Kentucky and the people of America in mind. Now, a few months ago, Rand Paul made a speech to the Faith Forum in D.C. And during that speech in the Faith Forum, this is what Rand said. You can look it up on the internet. Just go in and Google it, and you can look it up. Rand said that he went to a high member of the Senate leadership, and he told that high member, he didn't mention no names, he told that high member of Senate leadership, he said, I want to introduce an amendment to our spending bill to defund Planned Parenthood. And he said, this high member of Senate leadership looked at him and said, well, you can't do that. And Rand said, why? He said, because you might win. So, a person who acts like he's, pro-life and will not defund Planned Parenthood, I find that disingenuous. Let's talk about the Second Amendment for a second. I got one out handout, and I'll give you a handout of a lot of research that we have done on McConnell's voting record. President Trump's probably one of the smartest guys I've ever seen in my life. He takes, and he just suggests, last summer, he just suggests that he might be open to red flag laws. And what does Mitch McConnell do? He immediately comes out and says the Senate's going to hold hearing on red flag laws. And you know what the president did then? He said, no, I'm not for that. And he trapped McConnell. And so McConnell had to start backing up because he showed him for what he was. Showed him that he was for red flag laws. And I truly believe that that is the reason why our Republican-led leadership in the House of Representatives in the state of Kentucky is allowing hearings on red flag laws. Could you imagine that? Republicans are sitting there even entertaining the notion of red flag laws in the state of Kentucky? That's not going to pass, I can tell you it's not. But I think they did it. A couple of Republicans that sponsored that legislation, they did it as cover for McConnell because that he showed his true intentions, and they had to get the focus off of McConnell and put the focus on the House of Representatives. What about our national debt and our balanced budget? $22 trillion in debt. Mitch McConnell takes off the ceiling, the budget ceiling, completely removes it. They can go as high as you want to go. We're probably already at $24 trillion. What are they trying to do? Are they trying to bankrupt the country? Is that what they're trying to do? Because unlimited spending is absolutely going to bankrupt the country. There's no question about it. He has no fiscal responsibility. When Mitch McConnell became a member of the Senate leadership in 2003, I believe it was, we owed $4 trillion. Now we owe $24 trillion. Did you ever see Mitch McConnell stand up and try to block anything Barack Obama did? Anything? I didn't. And I'll tell you something else. I was sitting one night watching the State of the Union address. Barack Obama was giving it, and when he walked off the stage, walked off the floor of the House of Representatives, Mitch McConnell walked up, put his arm around him, and walked him off the floor. And I thought, my God, this man he's in bed with Barack Obama. I have searched the internet from one end to the other trying to find that video, and it's gone. I cannot find it. Now, let's talk about this book. Is anybody aware of the book Secret Empires by Peter Schweitzer?
Yep.
There is an entire chapter dedicated to Mitch McConnell and Elaine Chao. You can see it right there. Their bitch is on the front of the cover. And talking about how her family came over here. You know when she came over and met Mitch in 1992, you know what was happening at that time? Red China was trying to become one of the most favored nations in the World Trade Organization. Now, after Elaine married Mitch and him in the Senate, they become most favored nations. And guess what? Their shipping business, the Chow's shipping business, skyrocketed. Their ships are all made in Red China. All of the financing comes from the Bank of China, the Red Chinese Bank. Elaine's sister is a member of the board of directors of the Bank of China. And to make things even worse, especially for Eastern Kentucky people, is guess where the chow shipping industry are now picking up coal and taking it to Red China. Colombia is now producing 2.5 times the coal that Kentucky is producing. And it's all going to Red China on Elaine's boats. Now, isn't that convenient? Isn't that convenient? So, I think that I have made the case that Mitch McConnell is for Mitch McConnell. He's become a multi-millionaire. He was worth less than $1 million when he became a United States Senator in January 1985, and I voted for him. I voted for him every single time, except one time. I voted for Matt Devin in 2014. But I've done the same thing everybody else does. I said, I'm not going to allow Allison Lumberman Grimes to be a United States Senator and go up there and jump in bed with Harry Reid. So I voted for Mitch in the general election. That's what he's counting on. That's the reason he has to stop the conservative in the primary, because he knows that us conservatives will not vote someone else. But we've got a problem this time, and we just witnessed it in November. When your approval rating is so low, and you have a chance to lose that seat, then we have a real problem. And right now, Mitch McConnell has a 30% approval rating in the state of Kentucky. I truly believe that if we do not nominate a constitutional conservative in the mold of Matt Devin the way he was in 2015, when we won 106 out of 120 counties, that we're going to lose this seat. We're going to lose this seat to a Democrat. And what's even worse is that Mitch McConnell's 80 years old, will soon be 80 years old. If he dies right now because we lost the governor's seat, do you know who's going to be appointed to be a United States Senator from Kentucky? It dang gone sure ain't going to be a Republican, because that is the governor's choice. So I would strongly encourage you all